Good evening. 24 hours before a controversial rally was scheduled to take place downtown, the Premier has announced he has instructed the province's Attorney General to pursue a legal injunction against it.
Thousands are expected to gather outside the U.S. consulate to express their support for the Palestinian people and their opposition to Israel. CTV's Janice Golding is live tonight with more on this developing situation. Janice.
Hi, Nathan. Yes, the Premier has now joined his voice to the chorus, calling for the cancellation of the Al-Quds Day demonstration tomorrow here at the U.S. consulate. Organizers of Toronto's Al-Quds Day rally described the annual event as a walk for Palestine. Today, however, Premier Doug Ford proffered a different description.
This demonstration is nothing more than a breeding ground for hate and anti-Semitism. It glorifies violence. It celebrates terrorism.
In a social media post today, the Premier said he believed in freedom of speech, but added no one in the province has the right to incite violence or hate.
That's why today I've instructed my Attorney General, Doug Downey, to pursue an injunction that would stop this hateful demonstration. If we don't act now, if we don't act decisively, the hatred won't stop.
Ford's call comes on the heels of a request made by Toronto City Councillors Brad Bradford and James Pasternak, who asked city solicitors to file an emergency injunction to stop the Al-Quds Day rally.
I think it's about the context of the world that we're living in right now. Whether we like it or not, there is an alarming increase in anti-Semitic acts here in the city.
Ford and the city councillors referenced shootings on the U.S. consulate and 3 GTA synagogues in the last week and a half, with the Premier going so far as to say he no longer recognizes our country.
His tweet is a disgrace.
But Stephen Ellis, legal counsel for the rally's organizers, decried the Premier's decision.
Mr. Ford is pandering to the most backward political elements in our society. What he's looking to do is to pander to that section of people who are uncritically supporting Israel, no matter what it does.
Ellis adding, however, he did not believe the injunction would be granted.
Because what they have to show is that a demonstration could produce harm to the community at large, and there's no evidence of that.
In a letter to Councillor Bradford, the Deputy City Solicitor said, given charter issues, the city would require extensive and compelling evidence. Shamila Clark adding, in order to bring an application for an injunction, the city must have evidence that meets the following test: that there is a serious issue to be tried, that the city will suffer irreparable harm if the injunction is not granted, and that not granting an injunction will cause more harm to the city than the harm caused to the demonstrators if the injunction is granted. Still, the Premier says his decision to pursue an injunction
is worth doing on its own merits. We need to stand up for what's right, for what's just.
Vaughan's mayor has thrown his support behind the Premier, while the Centre for Israel and Jewish Affairs commended the Premier for, quote, taking decisive action to protect public safety. Reporting live from Janice Golding, now back to Nathan.
Also tonight, thank you, Janice, Premier Ford is proposing changes to Ontario's Freedom of Information laws so certain documents will remain hidden from the public. The justification and condemnation from critics. But first, there's more pain at the pumps for anyone trying to hit the road for March break.
Gas prices went up overnight, and they are expected to continue to rise this weekend. CTV's Mike Walker is live tonight with more on what drivers can expect. Mike.
Well, Natalie, it doesn't sound like there's going to be any relief anytime soon, with analysts predicting an 11-cent increase over the weekend. Paying more each time to fill up has become the expectation this month. But for Abe, it's hard to watch that total now surpass $100.
Upset, but I have no choice.
After a one-day reprieve, gas prices across the GTA spiked 6 cents overnight to around $1.58 per liter. And analysts are predicting further increases heading into March break.
Well, it's going to make me look more towards driving a little bit less.
Dan McTagg with Canadians for Affordable Energy says prices will increase 11 cents over the weekend.
You'd have to go back really to the summer of 2024. The last time we saw prices pushing towards $1.70.
The price of diesel now well over $2 per liter. How often are you filling up?
Oh, every second day.
It's a lot for Helen, who works in the film industry and commutes to different locations across the GTHA.
It's the problem. With my job, I can say, okay, I'm not driving too much.
Analysts say the longer the U.S.-Israel war with Iran continues without any resolution, the price at the pumps will become more uncomfortable for consumers, despite efforts by the International Energy Agency to release 400 million barrels of oil reserves.
The longer this goes, the greater the risk, the greater the drop in supply. And as demand continues, only price can really respond to that. So that's why I believe next week we're going to continue seeing increases.
Economists say that uncertainty fueling more pressure on crude oil prices and will only drive up inflation.
If oil stays around $100 a barrel, then projection is that inflation is going to rise to over 3%. Anytime the price of oil goes up, and we've seen a 50% increase in the price of a barrel of oil just over the past couple of weeks, that has these filter-through effects to the prices of basically anything that you buy at a store.
Paying more for just about anything has Abe worried.
Not working anymore, so for me right now, costs are going to go up and I'm going to feel it.
So with a 7-cent increase expected on Saturday and another 4-cent increase on Sunday, McTagg says gas prices are on track to jump by more than 30 cents since this conflict in the Middle East started. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Natalie, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mike. More news in a moment, but first a live look outside on this Friday evening. After a first taste of spring this week, we are suddenly very much feeling like winter once again. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions. Lindsay.
Well, Natalie, we've had a fair amount of snow today. Heavy, wet flakes falling earlier in the day. I want to step aside and show you the fact that there is a little bit of a lull in the precip right now around the city of Toronto and the West End. And if you're not getting a break from the snow or rain, you're getting a few rain showers, especially the closer you get to the shoreline of Lake Ontario. But elsewhere, we are seeing snow away from the lake. Now a changeover to some rain in places like Pickering, Ajax, and Whitby. Temperatures 4 degrees this hour in St. Catharines as well as Burlington, so it is getting a little bit warmer. +2 at Pearson Airport. I have to talk about these weather watches and warnings. Still a snowfall warning for York region and Durham region. Special weather statement for Toronto and a wind warning for Hamilton and areas around Niagara. These winds are only going to strengthen around the city as we make our way into the night tonight. There's your overnight at a glance. We'll take a look at your weekend forecast coming up. Natalie, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Still ahead tonight, charges have been laid against the owners of a Toronto trampoline park after an 11-year-old boy was injured using a zip line. We have the details coming up. But first, the Ford government has announced it is introducing legislation that would exclude certain documents from Freedom of Information requests, including records from the Office of the Premier, his cabinet, and parliamentary assistants.
Critics say the move will make decision-making less transparent. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris is live tonight with more on why the government believes this is necessary and why others disagree. Siobhan.
Well, the government really says this is all about the fact that these laws haven't been changed in 40 years, but opposition parties are really struggling to see what the need for this might be.
It's a shift in Ontario's Freedom of Information law that will keep more records and decisions in darkness. The government says it's modernizing 40-year-old legislation that doesn't reflect how people connect.
We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have cloud computing. We didn't have even email. Email was very new at the time.
A bill to be introduced this spring would mean records from the Premier, cabinet ministers, parliamentary assistants, and their offices wouldn't be available to journalists or members of the public. That covers virtually all progressive Conservative MPPs and their staff.
This government has probably been one of the most transparent governments in the history of Ontario.
The leader of the opposition sees this quite a different way.
This is I'll start by saying that.
Unconvinced by the government's rationale.
No government is going to shut down freedom of information laws unless they're trying to hide something.
The changes a new challenge to get answers.
This shows that Doug Ford is only trying to protect himself and his government.
The plan is to apply the eventual law retroactively. That could hit requests already in the pipeline.
You call myself on my cell phone number.
There's a multi-year fight to peek into the personal phone the Premier uses for work.
I'm quite certain that the litigation will be moot because we won't be able to get the Premier's phone records. So The timing is very interesting. It does seem as though the Premier has a personal interest in this legislation.
The fact that Ontario says it's lining up laws with other provinces and the federal government
does not justify the Ford government adding an excessive secrecy loophole and layer of secrecy that will lead to even more corruption, waste of the public's money, and abuses of power.
Ontario's Information and Privacy Commissioner is out with a blistering takedown of these changes, calling the amendments shocking and saying they're about hiding government business to evade public accountability. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Natalie, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Siobhan. Among several other big announcements out of Queen's Park today, the province is moving ahead with allowing more retailers to open their doors on select statutory holidays. Premier Doug Ford signaled he was thinking of taking action after he wasn't able to shop at Home Depot on Family Day. Changes proposed today would give retailers the option of operating on Family Day and on Victoria Day. At the same time, employees would retain existing rights to public holiday pay, premium pay, and for many, refusing work on a public holiday. Any municipal rules banning retail would also no longer apply. The government says it hopes to have the law enacted in time for this year's Victoria Day on May 18th.
Charges have been laid by Ontario's safety regulator against the owners of a Toronto trampoline park where a child was injured in a zip-line fall in January. CTV News first brought you the story of the 11-year-old boy who fell several meters to the ground at Scarborough's Aerosports trampoline park after his harness failed. The boy suffered extensive internal and external bruising. Today, the province's Technical Standards and Safety Authority announced they've laid 9 charges against the owners of the park, including providing false information and operating an amusement device in an unsafe manner. The boy's family tells CTV News they hope the process reinforces the importance of safety compliance so no other family has to go through what they've experienced.
The shooting in Midtown overnight sent one man to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The incident happened shortly before 2 a.m. outside an apartment complex near Yonge and Eglinton. Police say a man in his 20s walked into a nearby hospital suffering gunshot injuries. Investigators have not released any information about possible suspects. Well, police services across the country are being given new tools to investigate cybercrime.
It's all part of a collaboration with the Canadian Security Intelligence Service. CTV's John Musselman has the details.
The new federal bill C-22 will offer police and security agencies like CSIS the ability to better identify and track criminals who are now using social media and AI to commit crimes like extortion and human trafficking. The bill is titled the Securing Access to Information Act.
It is not about surveillance of honest, hardworking Canadians going about their daily lives. It is about keeping Canadians safe and catching criminals. It ensures that law enforcement can obtain timely, lawfully authorized information when they need it. It aims to create a consistent and clear legal framework for service providers to allow them to comply with existing legal orders. And it brings our laws in line with the Supreme Court rulings to make clear that law enforcement and CSIS can receive tips, ask for information to be provided voluntarily, or use publicly available information to investigate crime and threats to our security.
The legislation as it stands was in a pre-digital world, and those that are harming our communities right across this country are the ones that are taking advantage of the fact that we haven't had the tools to stop this. And so our ability to operate in a fully digital world is absolutely critical for public safety.
Chief Dariappa says the new bill will allow police in Peel Region and across the country to fight back against crimes like extortion and hate crimes. The criminals are operating in a digital world, and he says police need to be in it in order to identify and stop this criminal activity. John Musselman, CTV News.
The conflict in the Middle East is now in its 14th day and is showing no signs of slowing down.
The U.S. and Israel continue to strike Iran, while that country shows it's still capable of hitting its neighbors. CTV's Heather Wright reports from Turkey tonight.
What appears to be a projectile streaks across the sky near Incirlik Air Base in southern Turkey. NATO confirming a missile from Iran bound for Turkey was intercepted today, the third such interception since the war began.
It sounds crazy because, normally Iran is a semi-ally to Turkey.
So that was surprising to see, but, you know, war is crazy.
Turkish authorities have not said what the target was, but U.S. and NATO troops are stationed at Incirlik. In Istanbul, the mood is calm, but there is worry the war could spread.
They are trying to involve other countries too, and so maybe there will be something, but I'm hoping it won't be anything bad.
Today, the United States confirmed a refueling plane, similar to the one seen here, crashed in western Iraq, killing all 6 crew members. U.S. Central Command says the crash was not caused by hostile or friendly fire and is under investigation. In Tehran, smoke can be seen rising as thousands gathered to mark Al-Quds Day, one of many rallies across the country. People are not afraid of these attacks, the head of the judiciary said, vowing Iran won't back down. While Iran has been battered by U.S. and Israeli bombardment, it continues to strike its neighbors, with thick black smoke seen rising from Dubai's financial district today. In northern Israel, Iran's proxy Hezbollah fired hundreds of rockets overnight, injuring dozens, including a number of children. Israel continues to hit Beirut and its suburbs, with the death toll in Lebanon at nearly 700, according to the health ministry. Today, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres visited Lebanon and called for an immediate ceasefire.
Lebanon was dragged into a war that is not a war that its people would be willing to have.
The exact death toll of this conflict is still not clear, but government officials and UN agencies believe as many as 2,000 people have been killed and millions displaced, the majority in Iran and Lebanon. Heather Wright, CTV News, Istanbul.
The U.S. Pentagon, meanwhile, says more than 15,000 targets have been struck in its joint military operations with Israel in Iran.
It comes as Trump administration officials downplay concerns the conflict could end up being longer and more challenging than decision makers in Washington initially expected. CTV's Joy Malvin reports.
With casualties mounting, recognizing the cost of this war, a somber moment for the 6 U.S. service members killed in that refueling crash in western Iraq.
Please keep these brave airmen, their families, friends, and units in your thoughts.
From the U.S. Secretary of War, more bravado, suggesting Iran's new supreme leader, who's not been seen since the first airstrikes, is desperate and in hiding.
They've gone underground, cowering. That's what rats do. We know the new so-called not-so-supreme leader is wounded and likely disfigured.
And with oil tankers on fire, Pete Hegseth dismissed fears about oil disruptions through the Strait of Hormuz, effectively blocked by Iran.
As the world is seeing, they are exercising sheer desperation in the Straits of Hormuz. Something we're dealing with, we have been dealing with it, and don't need to worry about it.
Americans are worried about it, feeling the impact of soaring gas and now food prices. It's short-term pain, says the U.S. president, in exchange for a nuclear-free Iran, telling Fox News Radio.
We are decimating them. We've knocked out most of their missiles. We've knocked out many of their drones. We're hitting them harder than anybody's been hit since World War II.
And with shifting timelines and declarations of victory already, the president gave another benchmark when he'll know the war is over.
When it's over, this is going to bounce right back so fast.
When are you going to know when it's over?
When I feel it in my bones.
The president insists on unconditional surrender from Iran in a war that has taken thousands of lives already and cost the U.S. more than $11 billion in just the first 6 days. Joy Malvin, CTV News, Washington.
Canada and 13 other countries, meanwhile, are taking part in Arctic war simulations in Norway.
25,000 NATO troops are taking part in the exercises, with Prime Minister Mark Carney and other leaders there to observe. CTV's Judy Trin got a first-hand look.
Canada, Germany, and Norway, 3 NATO nations with troops participating in Arctic exercises.
We want to preserve what we call high north, low tension.
The adversary they are training to fight is Russia.
They're more capable, they're more organized than some of the traditional adversaries that we've faced over the last few years.
Overnight, Russia got an economic boost from U.S. President Donald Trump. to stabilize oil prices. After the Americans attacked Iran, the White House announced it would ease sanctions on countries buying oil from Russia, giving Vladimir Putin more money to continue waging war on Ukraine, a conflict that's entering its 5th year.
There should be no pressure on the energy side taken off Russia. It needs to be consistent, and it needs to be felt from the Russian side so that they will come to the negotiation table, accept the ceasefire.
While the Trump administration loosens sanctions on Moscow, it's also taking aim at allies, announcing that it would review labor practices of 60 nations. If deemed unfair, it would levy tariffs. Germany, Norway, and Canada could all be impacted.
Given the scale of the trade actions, the uncertainty that is associated as well as with the trade actions by the United States, that is causing big adjustments in the Canadian economy. And that's why we're making major investments across a whole range of areas.
Those investments include Carney's announcement a day earlier that nearly $35 billion will be put towards improving air bases and roads in Canada's north to strengthen Arctic defense, domestically and for NATO. At the end of their news conference, Prime Ministers Carney and Storr and Chancellor Merz were asked if they still considered the U.S. their most important ally. All three leaders answered yes. Judy Trin, CTV News, Bardufoss, Norway.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is back on the road for a few days of meetings in the United States. He says he's starting with a push for free trade in the auto sector.
We need to regain access to the United States market with a plan that will be good for Canada and realistic on the other side of the river.
Political watchers say the opposition leader appears to be making a shift to focus more on U.S.-Canada relations as they rank high among voter priorities. Poilievre won't visit Washington, but he's set to talk with about auto tariffs in Michigan, energy in Texas, and share his vision for Canada-U.S. relations in New York.
Well, sometimes infrastructure problems can be hard to spot, but that definitely was not the case today when a large pipe came out of the ground in Japan, leaving bystanders unsure of what they were seeing. This was the scene in Osaka after a 4-story tall cylinder emerged from the ground during sewer construction work. A city official said the pipe simply was not there the previous day, but it is a casing used for soil retention. Crews used water to force the pipe back down, but they may cut off the part that is still exposed as an investigation continues into what went wrong.
Also tonight, robot race. Top tech students compete for innovation honors at Humber Polytechnic. We'll show you the best of the bots coming up.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, many families are going away for the March break. If you are, you may be packing a swimsuit and a phone charger. But what about a carbon monoxide detector? Falling deaths in some hotels is something you may want to consider. I'll have that story. That's just ahead.
So the weather's going to settle down later tonight and the winds will gradually ease into tomorrow. Your Saturday afternoon looks pretty good, but Sunday we're in for another round of active weather, and this one could bring us a bit of snow to start, followed by a change over to maybe some ice pellets, and then eventually for Monday, some rain. It is going to be mild, though, to kick off March break, followed by a big drop in temperature. Details are coming up after the break.
Well, if you're planning to get away for the March break or maybe even this summer, there are certain things you always bring with you on a trip.
There's a safety consideration you may not have thought about, and it's why more people are packing something else in their suitcase. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Nathan and Natalie. Carbon monoxide detectors must be installed in homes and hotels in Ontario and most parts of Canada. But if you're traveling outside of the country, you could be staying at a vacation property without them, and that can be a safety hazard. Wherever your trip is taking you, you could end up at a resort or vacation property that doesn't have carbon monoxide detectors. Carbon monoxide is a colorless, odorless gas that can cause illness or even death within hours of exposure. There was a carbon monoxide leak at a U.S. hotel where Chris Hauschelt's parents were staying.
So my parents were on vacation in a hotel when they were found dead in their hotel room.
A carbon monoxide detector could have warned them of the leak. The tragedy didn't end there. 7 weeks later, an 11-year-old boy lost his life and his mother sustained permanent injuries from the same leak. Not all hotels and vacation rentals are required to install carbon monoxide detectors.
CO detector requirements vary greatly by location, and CO leaks can happen anywhere that there's a fuel burning appliance, and that leaves countless travelers at risk.
There are now portable carbon monoxide detectors you can take with you on a trip. There are some that plug in and some that run on batteries. Consumer Reports tested CO detectors you can take with you. Each device was placed in a closed chamber exposed to carbon monoxide and tested for accuracy. This lunar lights quickly sounds an alarm when exposed to both low and high levels of CO and comes with a built-in rechargeable battery. This kit of plug-in, while bulkier, excels at detecting both low and high levels of CO and accurately displays them. You'll find many CO detectors for sale, and you can also use them at home when you're not traveling. After losing her parents, Halschultz believes you shouldn't take a trip without one.
That is life-saving to be able to take that action on behalf of yourself and your family.
An investigation into her parents' deaths found the hotel's pool heater malfunctioned, causing the carbon monoxide leak. And many new CO detectors also monitor temperature and humidity, which can be handy. You can also ask a vacation property if they have them, but bringing your own can give you added peace of mind. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Well, things have been pretty good weather-wise for the past few days, but not today. We had quite a bit of snowfall, and it looks like there's more to come.
Yeah, and I think what a lot of people are wondering, Lindsay, is now that we have just lost all of that snow that was on the ground for so many weeks, will this new snow stick?
Well, it did in many cases today, but this is a very wet snow. It's not going to stick around quite as long as the other snowstorms that we've had so far this season. And we could get some rain in many areas before this evening is finished. And if we don't get any in your neighborhood tonight, you will for the start of March break. At least that's how it's looking right now. Let's take a look at some of this weather from earlier today. Now, downtown, there was a big difference compared to areas away from Lake Ontario. It was a lot slushier down near the waterfront, and that's because temperatures were just slightly warmer too. You can see very wet sidewalks, and as the temperature dips tonight, this could create some slippery spots into tomorrow. But away from downtown, away from the lake, this was snow, and it was heavy at times, reducing visibility as well because, well, we've had some pretty gusty winds out there. We'll get to that in just a moment. Let's show you what's still in place as far as weather advisories are concerned. Special weather statement for the city of Toronto, snowfall warning for parts of York Region and Durham. There's a winter storm warning in place for communities closer to the shores of Lake Huron, and this wind warning from Hamilton over toward Niagara. The winds have been howling today, especially across the southwest. These winds are going to start to settle down across the southwest. They may strengthen somewhat in Toronto through the overnight hours tonight, and then overall we're really going to calm down gradually through the day tomorrow. So those are the winds. Here's a close look at our radar. You can see some shower activity now around downtown Toronto, Etobicoke, Mississauga, starting to get some showers in through Scarborough and Pickering as well as Ajax. Elsewhere you can see the blue. That's the snow, and there's more of it expected for tonight before this all moves on out through the overnight hours. And then here comes the next one. So some snow expected for your Sunday morning. Sunday afternoon looks to be dry, and then we're going to get into a bit of rain for Monday. How much additional snow? This might give you a little bit of an idea. It's just a couple of additional centimeters in and around Toronto, maybe closer to 5 centimeters in Hamilton. There's tomorrow midday. We're going to get some nice clearing through the afternoon and enjoy some sun, but then the cloud builds back in. Sunday morning, we're back into some periods of wet snow. There may be a changeover to some patchy freezing rain or ice pellets. Then we're going to dry out. Not so much for areas to the east of Georgian Bay. Next round of active weather is going to move in for Monday, and looks like that day it is going to be warm enough for us to get into some rainfall. It is decently mild right now. It's +2 at Pearson Airport, 5 degrees in Windsor. Overnight tonight, though, we fall to about -3 degrees. Temperature-wise, might dip even colder than that into early tomorrow morning, feeling like -14 waking up tomorrow morning with the wind chill. But by tomorrow afternoon, +3. And the temperature even milder than that into the day on Sunday at +4. 12 degrees, the expected high for Monday. So yes, certainly mild enough for us to get some showers, but big temperature drop into Tuesday. You are going to notice the difference, and a few flurries are going to follow us into that day. But then the temperature's back up around +5 for Thursday. So it is a temperature roller coaster through March break. And condition-wise, we're going to see a little bit of everything over the next 7 days. That's the weather for now. Natalie, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Also tonight, Toronto Suits Patrick J. Harris. The TV star returns home to promote his new series and play tour guide in his city. That's just ahead.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
Peel Public Health says nearly 16,000 students in the region could face suspension for having incomplete immunization records. Officials stress vaccinating students keeps children safe from serious diseases that can spread quickly in school settings. But as of this week, those records were listed as incomplete for over 15,000 students. Peel Public Health says suspensions could happen as a last resort. But the department is also advising families to check peelregion.ca/report vaccines to make sure records are up to date. Students can also attend catch-up clinics in school and during March break. Toronto Public Health said last week students with incomplete vaccination records would be able to stay in the classroom for the rest of the year to give families time to catch up or get an exemption. It's a unique competition that has brought together some of the brightest teens from across the province.
As CTV's Sean Leithong reports, students at Humber Polytechnic today and tomorrow are showing off their robotic skills.
The task is building robots, able to shoot a ball into a basket. The result is inspiring young minds to succeed in the critical fields of science and technology.
It kind of teaches us these important skills that we might need later in the future.
Lucy Pham is the captain of the robotics team at Downsview Secondary School. They're one of 29 teams from across Ontario taking part in FIRST, a robotics competition at Humber Polytechnic.
You're always going to be working on time crunch. You're always going to be thrown projects and stuff like that, and you have to be ready, right?
Each team has 2 months to design and build their robot.
This is the future of Canada. These are the students who are learning and are going to be making the difference in our country.
And the competition is loud as students get to see their classroom work come to life.
It's like a sporting event, right? There's people cheering, there's crowd noise, there's audience, there's intense matches. It's just a great place and a great environment to be in.
But as much as this competition is a celebration of science and technology, it's also building leadership skills for the future.
Mehak Dhaliwal is a former competitor who's now 2 months away from her engineering degree. She says her love for STEM was born here.
I think the reason why this environment feels so alive compared to competitive, even though it is a competition, is because there's this big focus on cooperation.
Each competition is 3-on-3, so teams must work alongside 2 other schools while competing against 3 other schools. And whoever gets the most balls in the basket wins. You can play offense and defense. It forces quick collaboration.
This systematic development of human qualities alongside the STEM is the magic formula.
So while the work is immediate, the lessons last a lifetime, helping build a better future. Sean Leithong, CTV News.
To entertainment next, and Toronto native Patrick J. Adams has returned to his hometown to promote his new TV series.
CTV's Andrea Kay sat down with the actor and his co-star to learn more about Madison.
Hi. Hi. Toronto native and Los Angeles-based actor Patrick J. Adams is home for a couple of days, but this is his new co-star Ella Chapman's first trip to Canada.
Has Patrick been showing you around? He has, actually. He took me to a really good restaurant last night. What was it? Union. On Ossington. Okay. It was delicious, and apparently we're going somewhere else tonight.
Tonight.
Oh,
the original. The original.
So I'm getting the full tour.
They are here to promote their new TV series, Madison. This is Chapman's big break. The Virginia native, former model, and groundling sketch comedy improvisation performer got emotional when I reminded her how far she's come in such a short time.
Aww. That makes me want to cry. I'm like, if I feel so lucky. Yeah, sorry. Just I don't know, that struck a chord with me. Yeah, I feel really lucky.
Madison stars Michelle Pfeiffer and Kurt Russell. The series is the latest offering from Academy Award nominee Taylor Sheridan. In it, a family is dealing with an unimaginable loss.
My
Mine is not a family designed to withstand tragedy.
Adams is a veteran performer whose breakout role was in the long-running series Suits, which was shot in Toronto.
I think it's time for one last con. And now to get a phone call to come and join this universe and work with a writer who's as prolific and committed to telling the story as Taylor is, and then to get paired up with this just irrationally, insanely talented cast is, yeah, I can't believe I get like another version of that in my life. I feel really grateful.
Shot in Montana and New York City, they believe this show will give people a lot to think and talk about.
I think if people have suffered grief, or sadly will in the future, it's really helpful to be reminded that in order to move through that, I think with grace and get to the other side of it, we have to do it with people, the people we love, and you know, a lot of times that hopefully is our family. So that's what the show's about.
But they promise there are some lighter moments.
We got a fish! The show is just cathartic, I think, and we had so much fun making it, and we are so proud of it, and I hope that people find as much love in it that we did.
Madison debuts tomorrow on Paramount+. Andrea Case, CTV News.
After the break, fever pitch for soccer fans. Toronto FC prepares to take the field tomorrow for the home opener. We kick off the preview just ahead.
The Canadian economy lost about 84,000 jobs in February, and that wasn't what most economists had expected. BNN Bloomberg's Marilla Fernandez explains.
That kicked the unemployment rate up to 6.7%. The majority of the jobs lost were in the private sector. Young workers are feeling this the most. Employment fell 1.7% for Canadians 15 to 24. Both wholesale and retail jobs were lost, and Quebec lost the most jobs in February, followed by BC. A top executive of BYD, China's largest car maker, tells Bloomberg it's considering building a manufacturing facility in Canada. Ottawa recently announced it will allow 49,000 Chinese-made EVs to be sold in this country without a tariff, and BYD has already applied for a permit to do that. The U.S. is investigating whether some of its trade partners, including Canada, have policies that discriminate against them. Washington has been looking at ways to reintroduce tariffs struck down by the U.S. Supreme Court last month. It is also investigating the EU, Mexico, Japan, Norway, and others. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar is down to $72.84. West Texas Intermediate is up another $2 to $98.04. Western Canadian Select up close to $8 to $79.96. And the TSX lost another 298 points today. Those are your business headlines. I'm Marilla Fernandez.
The federal government is scaling back some restrictions on hiring temporary foreign workers. Officials say those measures were implemented to ensure Canadians have first access to available jobs, but some rural communities are facing acute labor shortages. Jobs Minister Patty Hajdu says employers in eligible regions could be permitted to retain their current number of low-wage temporary foreign workers and increase how much of their workforce they comprise. Ottawa says the request first has to come from the impacted province or territory.
I know for transit riders, there's a subway closure to keep in mind this weekend. Trains on Line 2 will not be running between St. George and Broadview stations on Saturday. The closure is to accommodate signal work. Shuttle buses will be running instead. The TTC says regular service is set to resume Sunday morning around 8. And a reminder for commuters on Line 6, as of Sunday, you'll no longer have to transfer to shuttle buses for service after 10 p.m. That's when the Finch West LRT will officially move to full operations until 1 in the morning. It follows a months-long soft launch, which included nightly closures for maintenance. The TTC says trains will arrive every 6.5 minutes during weekday rush hours and every 10 minutes all other times.
Well, after 60 years in business, an East End Toronto barber shop closed its doors today. George Iliadis is setting down his clippers and calling it a career. Known to his customers as George the Barber, he's been a fixture on Queen Street East since 1963, when it was first known as the Broadview Beauty Parlor. George's unisex barbershop was a family business, his wife tending to the female customers while George focused on the men.
In the older days, if you remember, was the Beatles. They used to have the hair in the shoulders. At that time, everybody the other barbers move away, they don't know how to cut it. And I was the only way left around here. Then, of course, in the 2020, they start to cut it really short, like worse than the army, you know. It's a long time. And I thank all my customers, which they supported me all these years, you know. And I feel sorry. I'm gonna miss them, and they're gonna miss me too, because, you know, they were loyal customers.
George hopes to pick up the odd job cutting hair on film sets, having appeared in films like Cinderella Man and My Big Fat Greek Wedding. In sports, tomorrow is a big day for soccer fans in this city. Toronto FC will take to the pitch for their home opener.
This year marks the team's 20th season, and it'll also mark a year in which the world will turn its eyes to the beautiful game here in our city. CTV's Allison Hurst has more.
The field, a bit snow-covered roughly 24 hours before kickoff, is ready for the home opener of Toronto FC's 20th season.
I was here day one, 2007. I was here when Danny Dicchio scored his first goal, and everybody threw seat cushions on the field.
That iconic moment being memorialized tomorrow with commemorative seat cushions like the ones thrown onto the field in celebration. Only there's a new star forward on the team fans like Ian Campbell are hopeful to see on the pitch.
Hopefully Josh Sargent is playing tomorrow, and we're excited to see what he can do.
Josh Sargent, a forward, comes from an English second-tier side with an expensive transfer fee of around $22 million, according to a source. Head coach Robin Fraser confirming he'll probably play some minutes tomorrow.
He can play this back to goal. He can run in behind. He can finish off crosses. He can create his own shot. He's a very good finisher.
The team is coming home with a 1-2 record to start the season following years of disappointment. But they're returning with a win in Cincinnati last week.
What I said to them after the games, they've set a high bar for themselves, and they can't really fall below that.
It just instills a lot of confidence in us, a lot of belief.
And come tomorrow, fans are hopeful they'll see Sargent in front.
He's dealt with relegation and having to reestablish a team in the very competitive English second division known as the Championship. So he's not going to be overawed by the expectations of the crowd here, the 20+ thousand that'll be here tomorrow.
BMO Field also looks a bit different, with the temporary stands being installed ahead of hosting the World Cup.
To see the stands pretty much up for the World Cup, which will begin on June 12th here with Canada's first group game, I get goosebumps.
That tournament, now just a few months away, will increase the capacity to more than 45,000 seats. Toronto FC officials are reminding fans it's not the first time they've had temporary stands at the stadium. Still, some are a bit uneasy.
They're a little scary. Do you guys remember the Rogers Center or Stadium? The stands were like shaking. So I'm a little worried. I hope people will be comfortable at least.
Those seats won't be open for tomorrow's match, which has Toronto facing off against the New York Red Bulls. Allison Hurst, CTV News.
Still to come tonight, the many chapters of the Mayor's Office, a book that dives deep into Toronto's past, reveals the stories of the colorful characters who helped shape this city.
Toronto celebrated its birthday this week, marking 192 years.
66 mayors have led this city over those nearly 2 centuries, some of them making it into the history books for reasons they may have wanted to turn the page on.
When you think of modern-day drama at Toronto City Hall,
yes, I have smoked crack cocaine.
There has been no shortage of scandal.
Permitting this relationship to develop was a serious error in judgment.
Or memorable moments.
I'm truly sorry, and I'm going to say it again. I'm sorry.
But mayoral missteps aren't new. It just wasn't all caught on camera back then.
This was a bustling place, and the council chamber was upstairs.
City Hall watcher Mark Maloney took a deep dive into the history of the Toronto Mayor's Office.
This is Nathan Phillips Square.
And published a book about some of the colorful characters who helped shape the city into what it is today.
It's a very rich history. We've had a murder. We've had people who ended up being refugees for several years. They had to leave Toronto. We had a mayor who went insane.
One Toronto mayor, John Powell, committed murder a month before taking office and tried to kill a prior mayor, but his pistol jammed. Mayor Henry Sherwood carried out a home invasion with an unruly mob. He had 18 kids and said he was too poor to pay his election expenses, but went on a luxury European vacation where he died. Mayors William Lyon Mackenzie and Thomas Morrison were both forced to escape Toronto with just the clothes on their back and live in exile. Mayor Ernest MacDonald ran for 18 different offices before he finally won, but then lost his mind as he died from severe syphilis. But there were also stories of nobility serving not only the city, but the country.
There was a mayor who voluntarily left to go and fight in World War I. And then he ended up, being gassed in the trenches. Like, here he goes from mayor to the trenches. Like, wow.
66 mayors and 192 years in, some things never changed.
There's personalities, there's characters, but if you look at the council minutes and the issues they were dealing with, even 100 years ago, many of them are actually the same. It's just in a different, more sophisticated way, perhaps.
A long line of mayors, each with their own story in the many chapters of this city's history.
All right, who says municipal politics is boring? A lot of excitement.
Oh, the stories those walls could tell.
Yeah, absolutely. A little bit of snow falling outside City Hall today, and now perhaps some showers in and around the GTA too. One more look at the satellite and radar. We will finally say goodbye to this system a little later tonight, but yeah, we are still under a special weather statement here locally with wind warnings and snowfall warnings in place elsewhere. That's what we're waking up to, so it's going to be a little chilly, especially once you take those winds into consideration. Again, active weather for Sunday and Monday, so plan your weekend accordingly. But have a good one, Nathan and Natalie.
Thank you, Lindsay. Be sure to join Heather Butts tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
Meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here at CTV News, thank you for watching. Have a good night.